What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk Hockey here, back again with another video, another day, and another trade-related video. We are inching closer and closer to the NHL trade deadline, and our Maple Leafs are not done. So if you guys are new here and you want to see more videos like this, make sure to like this video and subscribe, join the squad. I'd love to have you guys here. My nose is congested, so I apologize if I sound sick. I don't know what's going on, but I just got home from work. I'm trying to get this video out because I'm excited, man. The Leafs have made a big move already with the St. Louis Blues, and we'll be talking about how that deal potentially was supposed to be bigger. And I'm just excited with how Ryan O'Reilly and Noel Acciari have been playing so far. It's actually fantastic to see that they fit in so well. And O'Reilly with the hat trick, that definitely helps. But that deal was supposed to be bigger. And like I said, we'll get into that. But I want to know from you guys, and I want you guys to comment this down below. And I'll mention it again at the end of the video. What do you guys think is going to happen? What's the next move? Because a lot of people think it's a defenseman. There's some people out there that think it could be a goalie. Hell, maybe it's another forward. Well, I want you guys to comment down below. And like I said, there was actually potential that there is going to be another forward involved in the St. Louis deal, because Elliot Friedman reports that Dubas wanted the Blues to include Barbashev in the deal. Now, Barbashev has actually been really good this season. He's added, he's potted like 10 goals so far. He's a good little depth player. A guy that's scored over 20 goals before. He's a real good hockey player. And if the Leafs added him into that trade as well, I wonder who would have been going the other way. It could have potentially been Kerfoot. Maybe it's an Engvall or something like that to try to make some of the money work. But that would have been substantial. Barbashev's a real good hockey player, and the Leafs definitely would have been better with him in the lineup as well. But it just shows that Kyle Dubas is really all in, and we've seen the Boston Bruins. They've responded with an absolutely gargantuan deal to grab a couple more defensemen. The rumors that Patty Kane is probably going to be a Ranger by the deadline are heating up. It is just getting more interesting as the days go on. But I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. I mean, this is the fun time of the year. So we'll have to see. But having Barbashev included in that deal, I just thought that that's something that I wanted to include right off the bat because it was just insane when we heard that. Now, another thing that I wanted to bring up was Patrick Kane. Now, I know there was a lot of discussion on this channel. I know a lot of people wanted me to talk about it, and we did talk about it, and then they wanted me to keep talking about it because he hasn't been traded yet. But Patrick Kane kind of put the reports to rest that the Leafs were interested, or that the Leafs and the Hawks were talking, with a quote saying, "I don't think there's really, at least that I know of, much discussion of that being an option. I know there's a lot of different reports out there, and not all of them are true, so you got to be careful what you listen to." Now, the reason why that's interesting is because there was a report coming out that Patrick Kane wanted to go to either New York or Toronto. And this was before even the Ryan O'Reilly trade. Then Tarasenko got traded to the Rangers, and that kind of put all that to bed for Patrick Kane going to the Rangers. So we thought. And then people are like, well, what we've heard is that it's basically Toronto or nothing. He wants to go to one of these teams. Again, there was a few reports on that. There were some people that even tried to back it up. But again, it's something that you have to be very careful about because it's not always true. But Patrick Kane coming to the Leafs would have been fantastic. It's probably not going to work money-wise, asset-wise. I don't know how much it would have cost. You would have need a third team involved in there. But it's looking like the Rangers are going to circle back on that. But I kind of wanted to just close the chapter on this. Again, something can happen, and he might end up on the Leafs. It's like 99.9% not likely. But I just want to kind of say I'm not going to really be talking about Patrick Kane anymore to the Leafs because it looks like he's just going to be going to the Rangers once that, the deadline comes up. This is an interesting thing that I wanted to bring up. That the sense in Toronto is that Kyle Dubas didn't make his final move on Friday night when he acquired Ryan O'Reilly and Noel Acciari from the Blues. Pierre LeBrun wrote that his sense was that the Leafs will now try to find a piece for the blue line. They've got lots of time to work on that ahead of March 3rd. And then Darren Dreger of TSN said Leafland is buzzing, as it should be. Sense is Dubas isn't done, which emphasizes an all-in approach. Kerfoot, Engvall, Hall, Kampf. which collateral or what collateral does Toronto use for another move. Now, a lot of people are talking about trading players from the roster and how much draft picks they gave up. The Leafs actually still have a first next year, not for this coming draft, but the year after. They do have a few picks, and Dubas always picks up a couple extra picks at the draft. He trades down, he gets extra picks. He recoups where he needs to. They kept Matthew Knies. They still have both their top defensive prospects, and they still have a pretty deep cupboard of guys that they can use that are in the minors. Guys like Joey Anderson, Bobby McMahon, and then, like I mentioned before, top prospect like Matthew Knies, and then on the blue line, Niemela. Like, they didn't lose those big names, even a Joseph Woll as a goalie prospect. They haven't lost any of those guys. So you either trade picks that probably won't be ready for 2 or 3, 4 more years, or, you trade guys that might be ready by next season. Matthew Knies might even fall into the Leafs playoff lineup at some point. You can't trade those guys that are almost ready for a team that's contending now. You have to get rid of those futures if you're trying to win now. So I completely agree with what Dubas did. And if he ends up having to trade Matthew Knies, the trade is going to make sense for the team now. And that's just it. Now, in terms of the roster, Kerfoot, because he's played so well on the fourth line, it's going to have to take another player coming in my opinion, that's going to push him out for them to trade Kerfoot. Engvall, potentially. Hall, definitely not happening. Sheldon Keefe loves him. The only way is if Sheldon Keefe absolutely loves the new guy that they acquire, can kill penalties, play top 4 minutes. Like, Hall is valuable to Sheldon Keefe, which means that he's probably unlikely to be moved. David Kampf is a Dubas guy. I think he's also a Sheldon Keefe guy. He's been pretty solid since coming to Toronto, although I'm not really sure if the Leafs are going to be able to hold on to him in the offseason. So it depends on what they want to do. If Kampf is a guy that ends up being traded in a package for a defenseman, then that's just how it's going to have to be. I think it would be stupid. I think he's great depth for this team. And I'm not really sure that they should be trading off their roster. The only guy that potentially could be moved is a Justin Hall. And like I said, I'm not his biggest fan, but if you are going to be trading Justin Hall, you have to recoup his minutes, but also his penalty killing minutes. So that's something that they have to really look for in a guy that they acquire. Now, a lot of people are talking about their cap space, and I want to kind of just bring up briefly cap friendly. Now, it's to my understanding that with them sending Ben and Joey Anderson to the minors, or them being claimed or being traded, they could potentially have upwards of over $2 million in cap space, and that's with Matt Murray coming back from LTIR, and Jake Muzzin is done for the year, Robertson's done for the year, and from everything we see, Victor Mete is probably not coming back till post-deadline. So they can all stay there. It won't affect the cap. Joey Anderson cleared. They can bury him. Again, they're going to have upwards towards $2 million plus, and these are not the lines I'm saying they're going with. This is just a brief look at what the money would look like with an extra defenseman, which, again, could be dealt depending on what they do. And with how cap space accrues, we've talked about this in previous years when we make these videos. The Leafs have more money than we think, and with double retention or even 50% retention, the Leafs can afford to get a guy probably in the $4 million range, maybe even a little bit more, depending on, how they get retention and whatever. We've been through this before. They're going to be able to get somebody that they want. They might be able to get multiple players, but that would take guys coming off of the roster. Like, it's easy if you trade a Kerfoot, then you get an extra $3.5 million that you could work with. But I bring this up every year. You trade Kerfoot and Hall, that's like $5.5 million. You can easily add in another player with that money, but you have to replace their minutes and what they're bringing to the table. And I've liked Kerfoot in his insanely depth role. Like, he's basically a fourth liner, but it's working. Like, that bottom six looks really good. You've got that mix: Yarncrook, Kampf, Aston Reese. You've got Engvall, Achari, Kerfoot. Like, these are really good role players, guys that can play in the bottom of the lineup. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do next. I'm sure by the time this video goes up, there's probably more info that I can talk about, but I'm really going to try to make a video every day until the deadline, so be on the lookout for that. If you're new here, like and subscribe. Tell me down below what you think is going to happen before the deadline, and then we'll make some discussion on it. So I love you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Go Leafs, go. Peace.